Hi, I'm Sarah from The Upcoming. Such a pleasure to be able to speak to you today. This film has very much been hailed one of the most joyously entertaining of the year. But in your own words, what can audiences expect when they watch Roald Dahl's Matilda the musical?
What can they expect? Well, the poster that's over your shoulder pretty much sums it up. Some wonderful performances, some incredible dancing, and a really uplifting and powerful story, I think.
Some pretty good songs.
Some very, very good songs, yeah. So I think it's... Matilda, the name, means mighty in battle. And I think it's really inspiring to see like a tiny person, an underdog, standing up for what's right and changing the world around her on behalf of other people. And so I think it's a very, actually, surprisingly moving story. There's loads of laughs and singing and dancing and silliness along the way.
I mean, I grew up reading Roald Dahl, like I think a lot of people did, and it's one of those, he's one of those authors that just really stays with you. I think the characters that he creates, kind of larger than life, but it's not strictly a book adaptation. It's kind of gone on this journey, to being a musical and then becoming a film. And there's also the '90s, Danny DeVito adaptation. So maybe you can talk about the specific journey of this version of the story.
Well, this one sort of the '90s film isn't really. It's sort of bypassed. I've not seen the '90s film because when I was doing the adaptation of the stage play, I didn't want to. I read the book, but I didn't want to see the film because I didn't want it to influence me. And then I think when I knew we were doing this film, I still didn't want to see it because I didn't want it to influence me. So it doesn't really. If it has, it's sort of bypassed that. Although I understand that film is brilliant. And I look forward to watching it one day. So it kind of went from book to stage to here, and the big difference is the songs, really. You know what I mean? It's the songs sort of they're always my favourite moment in the sort of stage play, and I think they've come through and worked really well here as well.
The other big difference is the circus story. People would be surprised to see that in the film, I think, and in the stage, which is there in the stage show. There's a whole aspect of Matilda's imagination where she invents a story seemingly from nowhere, turns out to be relevant, very relevant, and in the end. And that was Dennis's addition to the stage show, and created a huge opportunity for the film to go off into this whole great circus world of, which is a very colourful and energetic dimension. And
doing this translation from stage to screen, what might have been maybe some of the challenges along the way, but also the opportunities, and of course working with Tim Minchin again, kind of a bit of a genius with on the music side, but writing some new material in that sense as well. So what was kind of that translation from stage to screen like?
Yeah, well, there's a lot to encompass in all of that, but you said the word opportunity. It felt like an opportunity for me. I really enjoyed being able to just unlock your imagination. We did it together. Dennis did a lot of it, but saying, what if she went up in a hot air balloon here, or what if there's airplanes, or what if we had a giraffe, or how about if the phys ed lesson wasn't inside in a gymnasium like it is on stage. What if it was out on playing fields, and what if it was raining, and what if... So I think that side of the translation is really appealing. But there's lots of things questions you have to answer on film you don't have to think about on stage at all. Like what kind of, what Matilda's house looks like from the outside, what kind of village she lives in, what the school is like, are there any other teachers other than Miss Honey and Trunchbull? And so with the film you've got to answer lots and lots and lots of questions to create the reality which film seems to require, but that was an exciting thing to do, and we learnt things by doing that. I think about the story as well.
And you managed to assemble the most stellar cast, and just thinking from Emma Thompson, unrecognisable as Miss Trunchbull, Lashana Lynch, a wonderful Miss Honey, Alicia, I know you sort of had to go through a long casting process, but she was quite discovery. And then even Stephen Graham and Andrea Riseborough as Mr. and Mrs. Wormwood, just kind of, I just haven't seen them before. How did you put all these people together and work with them?
Well, lots of creative discussions with the producers and with Lucy Bevan, who's a casting director as well, and we had lots of chats about it. and auditions and meeting. You know, a lot of those people came in to meet and sang and read things as well. So it's really exciting. You know, I have loved their work in other things, but like you say, these characters are quite different from all of them playing slightly different characters. I think that's what appealed to them. They wanted an opportunity to do something different. But one of the things we knew from the stage show is that even when it's silly and comic as a story, it's got this surprisingly moving and surprisingly deep underbelly. It's a story that's got quite a lot of suffering in it, and people surviving that suffering or battling to survive it. And if you don't have the shadow, the underbelly of it, the intensity, you don't get the sense of revolution and triumph at the end of all of these bad things being put right. So I needed actors who could really dig down into the character and not just play the surface. And so that's why you're seeing such great people in the film, because they're all people that are able to do very dramatic acting as well as comic acting as well, and they can bring all of those things to this particular piece.
Yeah, on that kind of note, I think revisiting the story, it made me realise Roald Dahl's writing was quite dark, and in some ways, you know, gosh, you know, is that a bit too dark for kids? Yeah. But there's something in that, in the fact that he didn't patronise children.
No, it's dark, but it's truthful, isn't it? You know, like at the end of the day, it's sort of like, I think that's the thing about Dahl, is that he's sort of, that's why children respond to it, because like, I think there's a lot of stuff out there for kids that kind of lies to them and sort of says, you know, actually the world's fine, it'll all sort itself out, but actually it won't. You know, the world is dark and difficult, and I think that's it's sort of terrifying as a kid, but you like things that are scary as well, because you know that it's sort of getting you ready for life, because life is sort of kind of terrifying and truthful and amazing and all of those things, you know.
Yeah, and we had lots of conversations in the development of the film, whether it be with studio execs or the creatives or whoever it was, about this tone really of it. And I said it's really important, it's got a very wide-ranging tone to it. We can't narrow that. But I avoided the word dark and I replaced it with intense. And if you think about it as intensity, emotional intensity, it's, you know, it's you can think of it as a very useful thing in the story rather than a threatening thing.
Did you have a favourite moment in the making of it, or when you watch the film back now? A favourite?
What's your favourite moment?
Yeah, it's a good question, isn't it?
It's really hard.
We'd have thought you should have had an answer, because it's kind of like
I should have had that. It's like you know, it's a a good question, but we were totally unprepared. No, I think my favourite moment in the film is, oh God, there's so many, but I love Quiet. I love the ending. There's just bits that make me cry, like when the whole sort of in her cottage, when all the truth is revealed. That moment, because also that moment is, it's always been a difficult moment, and on screen it suddenly really lifts, you know, and it's just that moment really gets to me, you know.
I think I enjoy crying, so I really like laughing and I really like crying. So it would be somewhere where I'm laughing or somewhere where I'm crying, but I think and there are several examples of that. But yeah, I think there are some places in terms of the flashbacks in the story into Matilda's the imagined story and stuff, particularly in Miss Honey's shed when she's singing the song My House. There are things you can do on film that you can't do on stage. To suddenly be able to deliver that in this sort of like perfect way of in terms of cinematic language. I really enjoyed doing that. Can't really be more precise without.
Revolting Children, got to say that as well. That Revolting Children, where they're all going mental.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. The choreography is amazing.
Well, I think I'm out of time, but thank you so much for sharing all that with us.
Thank you.
Can't wait for everyone else to see this in the cinema this week. Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you very much.